Okay. So for our group activity, we were assigned to pick a philanthropy that Mrs. Mayer would like to donate her money and time towards. And the organization we chose is SAVE, which is the acronym for Suicide Awareness and Voices of Education.
I am Brooke Vondrasek, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history and background information on save.org. Adina Roblowski is the founder of SAVE, and she lost her daughter to suicide in 1979. 1 year later, she found herself giving speeches and writing journals, spreading awareness of suicide. In 1989, 10 years later, she and 5 other survivors of suicide, or individuals who had been impacted by a suicide in their family, founded SAVE. And in 1990, they accomplished SAVE becoming a 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization status. SAVE is also one of the nation's first organizations dedicated to suicide awareness, and in 1999, it became a co-founding member of the National Council of Suicide Prevention. Between the years of 2001 and 2011, SAVE accomplished a lot of major milestones. They use mass marketing and media as their main way to communicate with the public. They also have participated in the best practice registry, which is used by physicians in the behavioral management spectrum of medicine. And they've also been involved in the Journal of Crisis Intervention and Suicide. Most recently, they've had 2 publications in public service announcements, and as recent as 2015, they participated in a nationally acclaimed public service announcement. Most recently, the organization developed a really great education program targeted for youth up to the age 13 to 18, called LEADS, and that's Linking Education and Awareness for Depression and Suicide. And so save.org will go into your school and host an amazing youth education program, which is designed specifically for those high schoolers and educators. And the intention is to link depression and suicide prevention. So in conclusion, SAVE does focus most of its efforts on those resources and the 6 main program areas that it really hones in on: public awareness, education, training and consulting, grief support, products and resources, and then of course research and innovation.
And besides all those things, I think understanding the ways SAVE uses their finances is also important. Save.org is a comprehensive website and has outlined the following information. A donation to SAVE, which stands for Suicide Awareness Voices of Education, as Pedro said, helps the message of suicide prevention reach millions of people. It helps raise awareness, provides education and resources, and reduces stigma. SAVE spends on 3 major programs. Their media campaign expenses account for one of the biggest costs. Each year that price rises, but they are currently spending almost $500,000 campaigning on the media. The media is what they consider their most important tool for raising awareness about suicide prevention. The campaign includes TV, radio, newspaper, magazine, outdoor and indoor advertising. Their second major expense is the resources that they provide. This helps SAVE provide resources and support services for those in need. This is accomplished with the SAVE Speakers Bureau, comprised of staff and trained volunteers who educate the public on their symptoms of depression, the signs of suicidal behavior, and how to intervene. And lastly, their third major expense is community and professional education. Education is the key to reducing the stigma surrounding suicide and creating a community mission to limiting the amount of suicides that occur. SAVE believes that each time a message is delivered, more people understand the connection between the brain illness and depression. This results in more people seeking help and more lives being saved. Additionally, besides the major results in more people seeking help and more lives being saved,
SAVE is on the rise, and I'm going to give you the statistical information to prove that. There are 3 important areas: multimedia campaign, which is the foremost tool of raising awareness about suicide prevention. In 2010, SAVE generated over 112 million impressions in their public awareness on media efforts. In 2014, SAVE generated over 125 million in their public awareness and media efforts. For the years in between, they gradually generated more impressions leading up to 2014. The second is community and professional education. SAVE responds to hundreds of requests to provide information in various settings. For instance, schools, businesses, conferences, etc. 2010, SAVE reached 32,214 people in 175 appearances. In 2014, SAVE reached 19,640 appearances, 19,640 people in 53 appearances. After 2010, SAVE failed to reach nearly as many people, with a huge decline of only 8,569 in 2011. After that, every following year, SAVE has an increase in the number of people reached. The third is resources and support. This provides those interested in information about suicide prevention and for people touched by suicide through save.org, publications, prevention, and grief packets on annual resources and referrals and more. In 2010, SAVE distributed more than 67,296 pieces of SAVE materials to the website and received 1.3 million page views from more than 205 countries. In 2014, SAVE distributed 36,000 materials and received 1.6 views from 217 countries with 86% new visitors. From 2010 leading up to 2014, the number of presentations that SAVE hosted has started to decrease, but the audience size has increased. 2010 community presentations with a number of 63, an audience of 13,441, and conferences of 5 and an audience of 1,232. In 2014 community presentations, there was 41 and an audience of 15,490. And conferences had 6 and audiences with an audience of 3,970. On the top of that, more people are learning about the charity SAVE. Volunteers are also making a huge impact.
All right. So we have already covered some of the history and the background of SAVE, the organization we would like to advocate for. We've given reasons upon why we believe it is a legitimate cause, some facts and some numbers behind the cause. And essentially, we decided to support SAVE because we noticed that it increases and advocates for suicide awareness more than other organizations that we looked into. Even before deciding upon this specific organization, our initial suggestion was to advocate for preventing suicide. Miss Brooke had volunteered another organization, and I volunteered this organization. When doing the initial research, it was found that this organization was created around the same time and has a reputable legacy, although the other one, the American Suicide Prevention Foundation, is just more mainstream. Much more people know about it, and it's a lot less of a direct impact. For example, I know that in my history of high school and in college, I've never had a suicide awareness program brought to my attention. So when I personally experienced the suicide in my family 2 years ago, it kind of was like out of nowhere, because we're just not taught about mental health and about how to deal with these type of issues. So we decided on choosing SAVE based on the overall lack of knowledge of the specific cause of suicide awareness and the organization itself. Also, for the stigmatized issue. So essentially, after researching the organization, we find that it overall has a 360-degree scope of suicide awareness, from education beforehand to understanding the signs of depression to resources for survivors and family and suicide attemptees. To support the suicide awareness through education, we notice that its values are reflected through its commitment of continuously giving back to the community. As was stated, during the turn of the century, in the new era of technology, SAVE was one of the first organizations to use mass media marketing, which I believe was a valuable tool, because instead of taking all the principal amount of money they were raising, it didn't go into their pockets. I believe $300,000 of the initial funds went to marketing their exact goal, their mission statement, which is to save lives. this in itself was just amazing for me, amazing to see that these organizations are doing the little steps to make a bigger impact. And overall, Save has been effective in preserving the founders' ideas that have been to educate the public since 1989. And to continue doing so, we would really appreciate your philanthropic aid. All in all, I believe that you should donate to this cause and hopefully save a life in the future. Thank you very much. My name is Pedro Sanchez, and I believe this presentation is over.
I would like to actually give credit to who we have gathered our information from. So our resources putting together all of this information are www.save.org, which is the website that it totally compiles all the information we presented to you. The other really great resource that we used was, let me look really fast. It was smartgivers.org, and that is directly related to Charity Review Board. And so it's the Charity Review Council. I apologize. So they really, really go in depth with making sure that these are good choices and giving you more of that information. So with that being said, the members of our group with their own take on all the information gathered are Justina Vukovic, Kyle Harris, Pedro Sanchez, and myself, Brooke Vondrasek.
Thank you very much for listening, and ciao guys.